Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice little 6-game Major League Baseball slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel a lot. Also, please share the video if you don't mind on social media. With that said, let's get into it. Make sure to drop home run calls in the comments below. I'll shout you out if you get one right. Um, let's get into our pitchers first here. So we have Castillo and Ohtani as our top tier options. Castillo and Ohtani both have very tough matchups, but they both have decent strikeout rates, and they should both have some potential in these games, so they're both somewhat risky. I do think Ohtani's kind of a Hail Mary risk against the Dodgers, and he's been pretty inconsistent lately. As for another P1 option, Yu Darvish is a little bit cheaper. He can also be a P2 option today, as he has been pretty solid most of the season, but he's been a little bit up and down lately. He has some good upside, and he has some good K rate occasionally, though San Francisco is hitting the ball tough. I do think he's a viable option. Garrett Whitlock is also a good option for Boston against Minnesota. Minnesota is one of the sneakier plays against for pitchers, as they typically strike out a ton. He also has some good potential to do that, and he's had 19 fantasy point games this season, at least out of the 7 starts he's had. So he's risky, but he's got some good utility. And then we have Williams from Cleveland, who's getting his first career start in the majors. He's been really solid in 12 starts in AAA, where he had a 2.39 ERA with 81 strikeouts and 60 innings. The matchup here against Oakland is definitely nice, though you could decide to, in GPPs, to do an Oakland stack to try to hit him up, which I think would be a low likelihood, but is still possible. P2 Hail Mary is Blackburn for Oakland against Cleveland. He has had 2 straight 20 fantasy point games. He has no wins in his 4 starts, but he's only had 1 bad game, and the downside here is Cleveland is a big strikeout team, so I do think he's got some utility as well, but he's very high risk, high reward, Hail Mary type of option. Moving into our core plays, I have Josh Naylor, Mike Trout, and Luis Robert Jr. as core plays today, so do keep those in mind. But let's start with our catchers. Kyle Raleigh is my top overall catcher, as he draws some really good metrics for this game. Though he's been a little bit inconsistent lately, he's been somewhat boom or bust due to his batting average. But he is in play today in a good matchup. A cheap option that I like probably more is Yasmani Grandal, who has good home run potential here. The matchup metrics here are very good. He's also been a little bit shaky, but there's not a lot of catchers to really like today, and those 2 guys are the top options. Then we'll look at first base. Freddie Freeman is facing Ohtani, so he's high risk. But if you go with the Dodgers stack to go against Ohtani, he's definitely somebody I would want to put in my roster. Josh Naylor is also in play here. I really thought about putting him. I did put him as a core play. I'm sorry, my brain's breaking. I did make him a core play today. He is a top tier option. I really like his upside, and I have him as a great metric situation matchup here for Cleveland against Oakland's pitcher, who is shaky, and I like his potential for a home run here. It seems a little bit off the charts today. And then Andrew Vaughn for Chicago White Sox is also very in play today, as he's hit the ball really well, and I do like a Chicago White Sox stack today. He's definitely somebody I would roster if you go with the stack of the White Sox. You can also consider Ryan Noda, Nate Lowe, Joey Gallo, and Jared Walsh here. Moving to second base, we have some good options in Marcus Semien. He is expensive, and he has been in a slump, but he does have some potential here to have a good game. He hasn't been getting 0 fantasy points. He just hasn't been getting those, 14 or above like we want. Julian for Minnesota seems like a great option today, as he's hit the ball fairly well late throughout the season. Not great, but not bad. He's got some good metrics for this matchup, and I like his upside here. Then we'll look at Drury for the Angels, who draws a really nice matchup here. I do like Angels stack today as well, and he draws some really good metrics, and he's hitting the ball fairly well. He also has some home run upside in this matchup. Then we'll look at Jimenez for Cleveland as a good value play. He draws nice metrics here. He's a little bit safer than Julian is for Minnesota, and he has some good metrics for this game. Then we'll look at our third baseman here. We're going to start with Jose Ramirez for Cleveland, who is one of my favorite plays at this position. He draws some really good metrics. He's hitting the ball really well lately. I like his upside. I like the matchup potential. Rafael Devers is also in play for Boston, as he draws some really nice metrics here, despite the fact he's been inconsistent throughout the season. batting average is still really low, but he's starting to get some hits at least and get walked some. So I do like his potential, but he's high risk at this price. Manny Machado is another guy I really like today for San Diego. It is going to be a bullpen game for San Francisco, so anything can kind of happen in those type of games, but he definitely draws good metrics here. And then Jake Berger is a good value play at this position, who I thought about making a core play, but he didn't quite make the cut because he hasn't been super consistent throughout the season. He's got a low batting average, but the home run potential is there today, and he definitely draws some consideration. You can also consider Justin Turner, J.D. Davis, and Josh Jung. I will mention that Justin Turner is no longer a guy that can be set at first base on DraftKings like he has been most of the season, so he can only play third today. Maybe the shortstops. We're going to look at Corey Seager as our top option. He draws great metrics here. He has home run potential. He's hitting the ball really well. Even without the home runs, he's mashing fantasy points. I really like his upside, and he draws my favorite play at this position. This is probably the one position where I think it's probably pretty important to pay up just because of the upside. Xander Bogaerts is also in play as he's not quite as good as Seager has been, but he has been pretty solid. He's also $1,000 cheaper, and he definitely draws some opportunity here. And then for a cheap play, Ahmad Rosario, though the metrics are not great for him here, he does draw some potential for just getting some hits and scoring some fantasy points in that way. But he does seem high risk, high reward. You could also consider Carlos Correa and Mookie Betts at this position, though I do think it's important to pay up at this one. Moving to the outfielders, we have 3 top-tier plays, and Tatis Jr. is being the first one. He is super expensive, he has home run upside, and he has been hitting the ball pretty good lately with lots of hits in a row, games of hits, and I like his upside. He also has stolen base potential. Juan Soto is also in play for the San Diego. He also draws really great metrics here, though he hasn't hit the ball quite as well as Tatis has lately. He does draw good home run upside. And then Mike Trout is a core play. I think he draws incredible metrics for this matchup. He has been hitting the ball pretty good lately, even though he's not been as good as we would expect him to be. He has really good metrics for this matchup. In fact, they are great metrics. That's why he's a core play. Then we'll look at Luis Robert Jr., who is a alternative play. He definitely draws core option upside here, as he's hitting the ball really well with home runs and stuff. He just isn't as consistent as some of the others when it comes to that. Kalinick is also in play as kind of a contrarian off of Robert Jr. He draws some good metrics, and he's nearly the same price, and he has home run potential in this one. Some value plays at this position. Stephen Kwan for Cleveland, not a big home run guy, but he does score fantasy points, and he has stolen base potential, and he has just good hitting overall. Eloy Jimenez is also in play for the White Sox. He draws really good metrics for this game. I do like his upside, and he is a good option at this position and is pretty cheap. Verdugo is a guy I like a lot too for Boston. He draws some really good matchups here. He also is hitting the ball well, and he's scoring fantasy points without home runs, which is definitely a good thing on this type of slate. Manaik for the LA Angels does feel like a high risk, high reward play, but he has hit the ball pretty well. Since he started, he doesn't start every day, so you do want to make sure he starts if you put him in your lineup. But he does draw a good matchup here against the Dodgers pitching. Andrew Benintendi is also in play for the White Sox. If he draws a start, which he has been not playing every game, but if he does draw a start, he'll be somebody I would consider today, as he draws home run potential and he's very cheap. Gallo is also in play for Minnesota. He can also play first base, but I like him better in the outfield as a Hail Mary play, or borderline Hail Mary play at least. He has home run potential, but high risk, high reward. Metrics are very good though. And then Peralta for the Dodgers is also somewhat of a Hail Mary play, kind of a borderline, as he definitely has really good metrics for this game, but again, he doesn't play every single game, so do keep that in mind. You could also consider Esteury Ruiz for Oakland, as he has stolen base potential. Mustaka Yoshida, Seth Brown, Byron Buxton, James Outman, JD Martinez, Brent Rooker, Jock Peterson, Will Brennan, and Mookie Betts. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Make sure to check out the 1% lineup opportunities that are on DraftKings today as well. Those are going throughout the week, and I think those are great options to help you work on strategy and make some different lineups and see how they do. So with that said, see you guys later.